Hit me.
From Studio A in Arcata, behind the redwood curtain, it's time for...
Succotash.
Yes, Succotash, the comedy soundcast featuring snippets from comedy.
Soundcast.
And also interviews with comedians, comedian soundcasters, and other showbiz folk. And now, here's this episode's host from up the coast, the man who puts the X in Xbox and the tie on antisocial, comedy soundcaster, Tyson Saner.
Saner.
Felicxan Novjaron. Estas me, Tyson Saner, and I am not here for this episode. This is a trip back into the archives of Succotash to ring in the new year with classic material. Happy New Year to you. Although I am not here right now, I am recording this portion of the program so as to inform you what is going on. There are multiple origins and convergences of events and personalities to be listened to, and we will be getting to them shortly. This episode contains large portions of Succotash Chats episode 173, called Bein' Social with Hunter Block, originally published July 20th, 2018. This was the 10th episode of Succotash I put together as host of Succotash. I have excised the opening that I wrote and performed from around that time period, so you don't have to suffer through it, but I have left the outro part of my speech intact so that you'll at least partially understand what I'm not subjecting you to at the beginning. Thank you for listening. I will probably have something newish for you in 2 weeks. And you can also tune in about a week to episode 338, which will probably be brought to you by Mark Hershon. Go to www.tysonsaner.com for bunches of content and follow me on TikTok under Tyson Saner, all lowercase TYSONSANER, for little bits of content, and perhaps I could be persuaded to dance. Be decent to each other. Enjoy this conversation from the past. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. My interview with my friend and co-host of Antisocial Show, Hunter Block. So, Hunter Block, welcome to Succotash.
You know, actually, it feels great to be here, if I may say.
Thank you for...
Yeah, I always wanted to be on Succotash. It's ever since I started listening to Succotash, I'm like, God, when can I come on? And that's a legitimate thing. I always wanted to be on the show. I've always been a major fan of Succotash, and I got my Succotash T-shirt, which is pretty cool. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There is a picture of you in that T-shirt on one of the episode descriptions. I'm not sure which one it is. Let me check that real quick here. Episode 165, Snippin' Like a Maniac. Has you in the main thing. It says, friend of Succotash, Hunter Block sports his new tee, and it looks like you're standing next to I'm sure it's supposed to look like a mantelpiece, but it looks kind of like a desk with some candles on, and then it looks like a painting perhaps above that?
Yeah, let me bring up I have the picture on Instagram. Let me pull it up real quick so I can look at okay, so basically what that is, it's a picture. And you're right. It's a kind of like a weird looking candle holder, and
cool. What
I'm leaning against is a bookshelf, like a it's supposed to be like an antique looking bookshelf.
Ah, okay, nice. Well, it is. It's a nice color. Everything there in the room.
Thank you.
Very nice shades of brown and yellow. What is that painting or picture what is that image that is above it?
I think that's a person.
It looks kind of like Jack Burton. Kind of.
It might be. I mean,
or perhaps
this picture. This picture was taken downstairs in my living room, so I would actually have to go down there and look at the painting itself, because I haven't looked at that painting in quite some time.
So it is in fact a painting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering because it looks like it could be a photograph, but then the more I stare at it, there's no definition in the face, and I don't think the pixel depth is bad because it looks like a high resolution photograph. Anyway, so that's you on there because of now. How did you end up in that picture? Actually. Because I don't actually pick the images for the show. Mark does. So was it an exchange of T-shirts or something? Or was it because you had the T-shirt? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, it was an exchange.
Sorry, what's the story, basically? Sorry.
So basically, I wanted to get my hands on a Succotash T-shirt that I can rock it around and wear it because I love Succotash, as I said. So me and Mark had decided to do a T-shirt for a T-shirt. So I gave him an anti-social show shirt, and he gave me a Succotash shirt. And did he ask me for a picture, or did I just do that on my own? I forget now because that was months ago. But either way, that's how that came about.
It all kind of blurs together after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Everything, like, time kind of like blurs. One day is kind of like the same, different days are kind of like the same day, like a Monday and a Tuesday are kind of like together,
It collapses a bit.
It does.
It's like Synecdoche, New York. So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How were you introduced to the podcast, or the soundcast, as we call it here on Succotash? How were you introduced to it as a form of entertainment?
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is going back to 2011, 2012 when I met you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at that point in time, I had no idea that soundcasting or podcasting even existed in those days.
Really?
Like, had no knowledge of it.
Oh.
Yeah, really, because, I don't know if it was, like, highly popular back then as it is now. Like, now you can walk up to basically anyone on the street and say, hey, man, like, do you know what a podcast is? And usually, 9 out of 10 people will say, yeah, I know what a podcast is, and they either listen to it or they don't listen to a podcast. But you always get that 1% that doesn't even know what a podcast is,
I don't want to take issue with your numbers, but I'd say it's a higher percentage of people that don't know what a podcast is still, but certainly much more than they did before. You're right. There was a lot of blank stares when you say podcast. People didn't know what that was just 6 years ago.
Well, yeah. I was trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about it. I'm going, wow, gosh, yeah. You know me.
Yeah, I know. So back then I had no idea what a soundcast even was. Obviously I never listened to a whole lot of talk radio either.
Okay.
Just music when I was driving around. And then, you and I struck up a conversation one day, and that's when you introduced me to combat radio. And I heard my first combat radio episode, and it was on YouTube, and it was you discussing Plan 9. And I'm like, this is some really cool shit, if I can say that word on the show.
Sure. Yes.
So I was like, this is really cool shit. And I really got into it. And then that's when you also introduced me to the concept of podcasting, which I've never heard before. And to me, it was like a really awesome thing, because as I started listening to, more and more of it, or learning about it, I realized that basically anybody can do a podcast. It wasn't like there were gatekeepers, as Kevin Smith would say, and there was no one telling you that you couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. So and to me, it was entertaining, because I also found out that you can find a soundcast for virtually anything. Like anything that piques your interest, there's basically a soundcast for it. Mm-hmm. So that's when I really got into, that's when you introduced me to the breaks and to Succotash and to Strange Times. And I started listening to, these shows a lot. And I was even on Strange Times a few times.
Oh, yes.
No pun intended there. Mm-hmm. So, the more and even like back in those days, and we're talking like quite a few years before, in between when I was on my first time on combat radio, if you remember. So there was quite a few years between the time I was on combat radio and Strange Times.
Oh,
and yeah. And even this is only going back, I think the last time I was on Strange Times was in like 2016, and we weren't even doing antisocial show at that particular time. So to me, it was still like listening to it was pretty cool, but like just being on being on a podcast or soundcast was still kind of like a bit nerve wracking for me in those days.
So are you saying you haven't been on a Strange Times episode since 2016? Do you think? Or,
correct.
Wow. I kind of thought you'd been on sooner than that. Wow. How time flies. So speaking to that, so your first appearance on Combat Radio was October 26th, 2012.
Correct.
In the Halloween season, in a show called Angry Jack-o'-lanterns of Doom.
Yes.
Also in the room were Ashley Palmer of Paranormal Activity, the film series. Tom Vitorino, who is going to become a regular co-star or co-host of Ethan Dettenmeyer's For who, of course, is the host of the show. I should mention his name. But I was speaking of guests first. Peter Shinkota, who I think was just finishing up on his run on Falling Skies.
Fallen Skies, yep.
With another Combat Radio regular, Doug Jones. Bodywork Man, Doug Jones. Bodywork Extraordinaire Man Jones. It's a long name that I added a bunch of stuff to. I don't think it's actually called Bodywork. It's called something though, because he does full body makeups and has for a very long time.
That's pretty cool.
He had a run as Mac Tonight, you might recall, the man in the moon in the McDonald's commercials with a giant crescent-shaped moon head guy playing at the piano. That was Doug Jones in that.
Yes.
Several Mac Tonight commercials, so not just one, like many. Anyway, but he wasn't there. And then I actually was on toward the end. So in a way, that episode was kind of like the first Antisocial show where we weren't actually on it together.
Yeah, right. But we kind of like missed each other, but because I was on, I think, and then I jumped off, and then you jumped on after. Is that right?
More or less, yeah. We talked about the Wolfman movies. I had just seen a few movies for Halloween, and I had seen the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. and Claude Rains, and then I had also watched the Joe Johnston remake with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, and I also had seen Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which also had Lon Chaney Jr. as the character that he played in the original Wolfman, Larry Talbot. So it's like Larry Talbot played kind of for laughs, even though he was pretty serious in it. And it's an Abbott and Costello movie. So that was all in that one October. So then just almost 4 years to the day. It's actually about 6 days later would be. 8 days later would be the 26th of October. But so on October 18th, 2016, the first episode of Antisocial Show debuted.
Yes,
which is that show that we do together, and it is means that it's over 50 episodes now, over 50 episodes of your own soundcast, basically one that you're on and that you contribute to regularly. As you would say, you co-host. You are the other half of this show. You're, some would say, the personality of the show, and. Thank you. You're welcome. No, thank you. God, I mean,
you're welcome.
It's just my boring ass for an hour. Nobody would listen. So
actually, that's not true, dude. Because you have like I noticed that when you do our show, right? When you do Antisocial Show, okay, and on either show, you're not boring, but you're able to carry your own, I think. When you're doing Succotash, you know what I mean? So like, I've noticed that like me personally, I think I would be the boring one if it was just me running solo, because I need that like interaction. If I was just like sitting by myself and just be like talking, I don't think I'd have a single idea of what it is I'd be talking about. I would actually have to probably script that and rehearse that before I actually even attempted to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we could try as an experiment in a bit here. I could try an experiment for generating a conversation out of nothing. But it's thank you for saying. I appreciate what you're saying. I'm
you're welcome.
I'm attempting to ignore the compliment because, as you know, I am uncomfortable with them. But I shouldn't. I should acknowledge it and thank you for it because it is very kind of you to say nice things.
Only the truth, brother. Only the truth.
So now you are credited in the episode of Combat Radio. You are credited as a relative of Captain Kidd.
Yes.
I'm almost positive we've talked about this before, but I don't know if we've talked about it on one of the soundcasts that we've done already or not. But yeah, it says, so here's the full description of that episode, if you'd like to.
Okay.
Angry Jack-o'-lanterns of Doom. Combat Radio's 31 Days of Halloween continues with Ashley Palmer, Peter Shinkota, Tom Vitorino, also Hunter Block. And okay, so this is the problem. I didn't read the parts where it says the credits. And it's funny because I've already said these credits already, so I'll try to go over as quickly as possible. It's Ashley Palmer, and then in parentheses, Paranormal Activity. Peter Shinkota, Falling Skies, Mortal Kombat, War, etc. Tom Vitorino, manager of the Cult, The Doors, Big Country, etc. Also, Hunter Block, a relative of Captain Kidd. calls in from the haunted Rose Hill Cemetery. And then Tyson Saner calls in with this week's Halloween movie picks from Universal Monster Machine. Oh, and apparently somebody, yes, Marcus Lindsay was there at Paranormal EXP, the Travel Channel, where he investigated haunted Alcatraz. And they talk about the Amityville horror and stuff like that. And more stuff and junk and more stuff. But yes, so what is the behind you? Do you mind talking about the relation to Captain Kidd?
Sure. He supposedly was my great grandfather.
Wow.
Few greats.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I discovered this at a barbecue because my grandfather was doing our family tree, so we were talking about the family and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, did you know who we're related to?" And I'm like, "Wow, we're related to that guy." He's like, "Yep," and I'm like, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah, it is pretty. So, is that on your father's side or on your mother's side?
Mother's side. Okay. Yep.
So yeah, apparently there's quite a bit of history associated with this one. There are apparently quite a few people that believe he was wrongfully executed for piracy.
Yes, he was. He was actually a pirateer, not a pirate.
I think it's a privateer.
Privateer. No, you're right. Privateer.
Yeah. Although
he worked for the British. He worked for the king basically in those days, getting rid of pirates or turning in pirates or help capturing pirates.
Wow.
And in the end, they just basically hung him.
So they turned on him, apparently.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. Well, that's not good.
That was basically like his reward for helping to clean up the the ocean, I guess.
Wow. So let's see. It says here. Okay, so all right. It says Kidd had two lawyers to assist in his defense. He was shocked to learn. This is from Wikipedia, by the way. He was shocked to learn at his trial that he was charged with murder. He was found guilty on all charges. It's murder and 5 counts of piracy and sentenced to death. Sorry about that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He was hanged 2 times. On the first attempt, the hangman's rope broke and Kidd survived. Although some in the crowd called for Kidd's release, claiming the breaking of the rope was a sign from God, Kidd was hanged again minutes later, this time successfully. Oh, and then it says, some details, which I'm sorry to go into details because it's, when it's one's relative, you never know how sensitive they're going to be about stuff like this. It says his body was gibbeted over the River Thames at Tilbury Point as a warning to future would-be pirates for 3 years.
Wow.
3 years.
I think they did used to do that back in those days to kind of it was a deterrent against, piracy basically. Like, hey, if you roll into our port and try to, commit piracy, this is what's going to happen to you. So this is like your warning basically. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. For 3 years. 3 years.
That is insane. Like that is insane.
Yeah,
wow.
It's just, you'd imagine that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's it's weird and bizarre and kind of morbid, really. Here, we're going to put this guy on display for 3 years.
It seems like a long time to be. What's really messed up about that is that there are people who just got used to it. They're just like, oh, that's there. It's like, oh, that's not going anywhere. Oh, that's still there. And then how long do you suppose do you think it took? It's less than 3 years now that Trump's been in office. Do you suppose it was now that people are just kind of getting used to that on some level, which is because so much time has gone by? Or do you think it's one of those situations where it's like, what? It's been 3 years? We should probably take him down. We should probably get that guy. I think
kind of both. I think people kind of became desensitized to the fact that there was a dead man on display for 3 years as a warning against, future piracy.
Sure.
It's almost like a Halloween decoration. No offense, but it's kind of like a Halloween decoration. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's on display. He's he's not only a deterrent, but he's a Halloween decoration if we celebrated Halloween in those days. But
right.
and of course people in those days, it was a much more different lifestyle and different culture in those days, because obviously in those days somebody pissed you off, you just took out your pistol and you shot them. I mean, and people would think none of it. Like, like how they used to do, they used to stand each other back to back and gave them the pistols, and then they had to walk certain amount of paces and then turn, and whoever shot first, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was
like in Barry Lyndon.
A duel, exactly. So it was like that. So it was definitely a
wilder time.
It's just for example, a lot of people are desensitized when it comes to violence on television. Obviously when you watch a scary movie and you see a monster ripping someone's head off, you don't really react to it because, for one, it's fake. But two, on a subconscious level, you're also desensitized from it. And I'm not saying everybody is. A lot of people will get shocked by the gore and violence in a horror movie. But I'm saying back in those days, I'm sure a lot of people were completely desensitized to the fact that there was a dead guy just on display for 3 years.
Right. Yeah, you just get used to it. I mean, there were children born during that time. They're can you imagine that there's a 3-year-old, right? Who's just starting to notice stuff that's around in life, and they happen to see this. I mean, I don't know how far out it was in the, on the dock or wherever by the Thames, wherever this thing is. I don't know how visible, but it's one of those things that's if somebody had hoped you hadn't seen it, then, a certain amount of time goes by and it's not there anymore. And it's Daddy, did there used to be a dead man hanging up on the dock there by a gibbet? No, of course. You're imagining things. Of course not. Or yes, there was. Don't be a pirate. Or better yet, don't be accused of being a pirate, because it's almost as bad.
Right. Well, that's kind of during the Salem witch trials, it's don't be accused of being a witch, or they're going to drag you out of your house at night. You're going to be done.
Yeah.
They're going to stick you at the bottom of a pond, and God forbid you float up because you're using your witch-like powers to save your own life. I'm sure I'm sure that back then when he was on display, I'm sure people, did use it as a teaching tool to be hey, listen, when you grow up, get yourself a reputable job, become a blacksmith, or, whatever kind of jobs they had back in those days. But God forbid, whatever you do, don't be a pirate, because you see that bad man right there, you'll be on display just like him. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So, I hear you. Yeah, you got to find a way of keeping the children on the straight and narrow path,
Right, exactly.
Or, just trying to protect them.
Through fear.
Hello, friends, and Happy New Year from Henderson's Pants. As you set out with a freshly minted batch of resolutions for the new year, bound and determined to make at least some of them stick, be sure that one of those vows is to get yourself a pair of Old Lang slacks from Henderson's. Crafted from recycled calendar pages from last year, Old Lang slacks are then reinforced with the resolve of those who failed to follow through on their plans to better themselves. Double-stitched with the pain of failure, these pants are designed to stay with you throughout the coming year while keeping you on track when it comes to fulfilling those oh-so-important obligations to yourself. Here's the secret. Thanks to microchip technology, your Old Lang slacks are fully wired and ready for you to program in up to 12 New Year's resolutions or 18 heartfelt promises not to let others down. Each time the pants sense that you're straying off that old resolution path, you'll get a jolt in your nether region that'll make you wish you hadn't slipped into that pair of the most comfortable pants you've ever owned. But too late now. Another vital feature of Henderson's Old Lang slacks is the accountability time lock zipper and clasp. These pants won't come off until your resolutions are complete. Originally designed for parole violators, deadbeat dads, and political candidates, Henderson's Old Lang slacks are available to ring in the new year at a church, synagogue, or mosque near you. That's Henderson's, makers of fine hair shirts and Iron Maiden since 1206 AD. And now, back to Succotash.
Thank you, Bill Heywatt. We now return you to my conversation with Hunter Block, already in progress. So I was thinking it would be a good time for you to hear that clip.
Oh, yes.
From Combat Radio.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, you're on with Combat Radio.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Who's this? This is Hunter Block.
Hunter Block. Okay, let me digress a little bit into who Hunter Block actually is. He has a code name out there known as Zombie Bacterium, but he's one of our avid listeners, and he's actually a descendant of the pirate Captain Kidd. And the reason he's calling is because Hunter has done a tour of duty in a very haunted cemetery back east, and he's here to tell us a little bit. It's actually a cemetery, and I'm not kidding you. It's got a headstone marked zombie.
Yes,
and
it does. It's,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You're the authority, Hunter. Hunter, welcome to the program, man. Glad you're calling. Happy Halloween, by the way.
Oh, thanks. You too. Yeah, actually, the tombstone is the guy's name is Zombie Holstart, believe it or not. He was a child born in 1960 and died in 1973. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any background on him, but he's in there. The actual name of the place is called Rose Hill Cemetery.
Rose Hill, right? That's the name of it. One of the things I want to ask you, Hunter, is there's a headstone there. It's somewhat, it's kind of first of all, in a moment, I'm going to have you give us the history of the place and some of what's happened there. But there is a headstone where if you take a photo of it, your camera battery instantly dies, and it's
yes,
and it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Peter's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Even Duracell?
Even Duracell. Tell us about the history of the place, Hunter. What better person to advise us than a descendant of Captain Kidd? But give us a history of both the place, and some of the haunted elements there, since you've actually done a paranormal tour of duty in the joint.
Okay. The tombstone that you're referring to is the boy's name is Lester Stillwell. He was 10 years old when he died in 1916. He basically died of a shark attack, which is actually a freak thing since I've never even heard of that up until I started researching this. And his would-be rescuer, he was 24, he died as well. So supposedly when you actually take a picture of this boy's tombstone, your battery just dies.
Yeah. Hey, Hunter, stop right there because I'm going to play the appropriate music. So stand by. Hold on a second here. Let me get this right for us.
Okay.
One of these days I'm going to have to put some time into finding some different source music, but I know where to go, where to make it work.
I thought you were going to play Jaws.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I just got to stop this real quick.
Yeah?
Oh my God, that's like memory lane, like right there. To anyone out there listening to this, before I replay this, this was my first time ever being on not only because obviously it's not a soundcast in the sense of being soundcast. This was a live internet radio show, and still is. It's very awesome. I listen to it every Friday and promote it as much as possible. And plus, we're on the Brigade Radio 1 that's sponsored by Combat Radio, as Tyson will tell you. But this was my first time doing anything like this, and I can tell you right now, I was scared as hell. So, with that being said, let's get back to it. You ready, Tyson?
Sure.
Okay.
You're going to play Jaws.
Yeah, I do too. I was like, where's the Jaws?
We should get Carl Gottlieb in on this. All right, Hunter, back to you. So, shark attack, cemetery headstone that kills your phone battery when you try to take a photo of it.
Yes. This a shark apparently swam up Manawan River, and I guess this boy was playing by the river, and he fell into it and fell victim to a shark attack. And he died on the way to the hospital.
In a river?
His rescuer died as well.
It was a shark attack in a river? That's unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fresh water.
It definitely is. Yeah, it's fresh water. So, I mean, that's what the research I've done is that he actually a shark found its way upriver and to this town. The town is called Manawan. I think I had mentioned that.
Is that long?
And he died.
Is it a shark or was it a cover-up? Could have been a cover-up.
They said shark.
Was he swimming in the Amityville Lagoon?
Hold on, don't go there yet. Don't go there.
He was trying to do a great segue there.
Peter was trying to derail us to the Amityville horror segment, which is next.
Kind of energy we need in zombie hookers. That kind of energy right there.
You can't. I'm sorry. You can't derail the Amityville horror, man. Come on. Can't derail it.
Don't worry, you can call back for that segment, Hunter. We can put you on 2 segments. But tell us a little bit. What? Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No. Go ahead. You can speak.
I was going to say I actually visited the house, although I couldn't get inside. I actually visited it.
Wait, you know what's? I'm jealous. You attempted to get inside?
You don't know this guy.
I was standing outside the house.
Let me tell
I
you.
didn't want to commit B&E, you know what I mean?
I didn't want to commit B&E.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about this guy. If this guy pulls on you, this guy goes to the house, I'm sure. He also probably knocked on the door, and there's no response. He probably looked in the window, and then he probably went around to try to find a cellar entrance. He probably went into the boathouse, probably swam in the lagoon a bit, and then decided to leave.
I had this creepy lady come right to the window, and she had this rotary phone with a wire, and she's standing right there for 10 minutes, staring right at us like
There is no
Damien's
rotary
guardian,
phone in
like,
that
she's
house.
scary.
There is no rotary phone in that house.
There's no oxygen around that house. It's a vacuum.
Oh, now see, there you go. Now
I'm creeped out.
This is getting creepy. This
How come
Halloween
the
show.
star of Paranormal Activity is the one that's all creeped out? Aren't you the one that everyone thinks was in a real paranormal documented?
Yeah, I thought you died.
Right. I know, because it's real.
I hate to let the secret out of the bag, Hunter, but it's just a movie. She got up after eating her hand off and went home that day.
Or she's
Oh man, I was all excited too. You know, not that you died. I'm sorry, but you know.
I was so excited.
Let
that
him
you
correct
died.
that real quick.
Happy Halloween.
He was
to
looking
you
at
too.
that as real
Happy
paranormal
Halloween
evidence.
to you too.
Hunter, real quick, back to Rose Hill.
Okay.
Give us a couple.
Other.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, do you see how different I was in those days doing this sort of thing to how I am now doing this sort of thing?
Are you asking me or the audience at large?
Well, I'm asking you, sir, because you do this with me each and every week, just about. So I mean, but you can hear the difference, though, in my level of confidence as to back then to as now. Because back then, dude, I'm really glad that I wasn't like facing a large crowd, because I don't think I'd be able to have done that. Now I could, like now I don't care, but
Right.
it's just this is like a wonderful like blast of the past for me.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I thought you sounded pretty confident back then. So, I mean, I understand if you were nervous, but he didn't sound nervous to me. I mean, he didn't sound any more nervous than anybody else who's ever called in on a radio show. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
or anybody else who'd never called in on a radio show before, or anything. You know, you just sounded kind of like you just did what you. I mean, you certainly sounded at least the same confidence level as me, and I was always trying to just flying by the seat of my pants when I was appearing on there. So, I don't know, I thought it went
absolutely. I mean,
really well.
No.
First of all, they say that it's home to some Civil War casualties. Other people reported hearing strange noises, strange voices, a mist, the usual orb in the photographs, and vortexes, which I'm actually disappointed because I didn't get to see one yet.
A vortex. Explain exactly to a guy who, I don't know, is not into vortexes, what a vortex is. What exactly is a vortex when you say that? Define vortex, Hunter.
Well, I guess a vortex, because I'm a little, I guess a vortex would be like a gateway to another dimension.
Oh, you're kidding. So it's like a time-space continuum, like a 1.21 gigawatts Doc Brown kind of deal?
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Something like that. Yeah, that
Now, who doesn't know shit about
vortexes?
vortexes now? All right. So anyway, go back to I'm sorry. So there's been claims that there's vortexes there. There's Civil War dead.
Right.
And there's some claims of
That's
vortex.
right.
There's this mysterious shark attack, cat fatality there. And there's also the headstone marked zombie. Very interesting.
Yes.
Let me ask you something on the
here's
zombie.
something you might find even.
On the
Tom Benerino's got a question
I got
for
a
you.
question for you. On the zombie name, is that actually, did anyone research, is that like a name that was used at that period? Is it, because it's sort of like you can make an issue out of anything. Was zombie a nickname? Was it a name? Did anyone research that as opposed to just saying zombie? Oh, he must be a zombie. Is there any thought put into that being a hot button issue, being called zombie?
Well, I actually did try to research it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything on it, but the Matterhorn Historical Society does give guided tours and adds ghost stories into it. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they'll probably have something on that.
Right.
As to where I was unfortunately wasn't able to find anything on it at all, other than the name Zombie, which is actually on the tombstone. So maybe it was like the boy's nickname or something like that, or maybe the parents were just beast.
Typically, you wouldn't put. I mean, I guess if you have sort of that sense of humor, you'd go that way. But typically, you wouldn't put a nickname on it.
Well, it was 1960, right?
People always have a lot of humor going on when they're buried.
Yeah, well, he was born in 1960. and he died in 1973. So maybe they just have like really dark humor.
So 1960, maybe they were
hey,
experimenting with acid or something. Parents.
Maybe. Hey, it's New Jersey, man. Anything can happen out here.
I
have
how
a question.
He speaks for the Tourist Bureau of New Jersey, by the way. Go ahead, Ashley.
If
you
you
have a question?
take a picture with your iPhone, does that battery die too? Because maybe there's something going on with my iPhone.
Maybe
Battery's always dying.
Well, even though the iPhone is wicked awesome, I have one myself, but I'm pretty sure the rules still apply to iPhones too.
But does it apply to the Galaxy 3?
Is that covered under warranty? Is that covered under warranty with the iPhone 5? I just want to know.
I don't know, but unless Steve Jobs up there in heaven's like telling this boy not to drain people's iPhone batteries, I'm pretty sure it's going to get drained.
Hey, what is the scariest thing you have heard or witnessed in this cemetery?
When I was here at night, I witnessed this. I felt a sense of being watched constantly. Like no matter where I went in this place, it just felt like there was eyes on me. You know, and like I just couldn't wait, like just to like not be there at night. You know.
Did you
or
pull
be here at night or whatever?
Did you pull like a Linus and sit there all night? Did you like do an investigation and you were in the cemetery all night doing
Linus?
You know.
Oh yeah, this place is huge. Yes, I did. I mean, this place is hilly, lots of hills, lots of like winding roads. I mean, it just goes on and on. They have mausoleums that date back to like 300 years. So I'm like really fascinated with this place. I mean, I can go there again and again. It doesn't matter if it's Halloween, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Is he wearing a garlic necklace?
Yes. Peter's asking you if you're wearing a garlic defense necklace in case zombies, or not zombies, vampires, right?
Something, I don't know. Some
Garlic wards away everybody.
No, I didn't have garlic, but I did hear about a bunch of ghost tracking moms. One of them in particular is from Keyport, which is a town over from where I live, and she actually drove her minivan in there at night. And it's not a good idea to drive in here at night. You know what I'm saying? You should park and walk in case
Well, anyone who
people
watched
start asking questions.
anyone who ever watched Scooby-Doo knows you always park the van and then you go in. You never
Did
drive.
you just say ghost hunting moms?
She drove in. She drove in the entrance, which you actually can do here during the day. She drove in, and she left the headlights on, which is stupid. But I guess she wanted to light her and her little ghost group or whatever, and they all got out, and supposedly the lights just cut off by themselves for no apparent reason.
Interesting.
I like the ghost hunting moms. That has to be in the zombie hookers somehow.
That's so awesome. I want to show.
Zombie Hookers,
Moms.
by the way. Zombie Hookers. Perfect title for a sequel. Laid to Rest.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. Zombie Hookers 2, Laid to Rest. I like it. See, as soon as Zombie Hookers
Throwing
went
that out there.
Hunter was immediately on that. As he saw the light that I saw, which is Hit Machine.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Definitely Hit Machine.
Zombie Hookers, and especially the sense we were doing it, like we were talking, Peter, about doing it like in a blaxploitation 70s style. With like
that would be wicked awesome.
With awesome zombie hookers, not just zombie crack hookers, but like real fun zombie hookers.
Blackula cameo.
Yes, Blackula cameo. Oh man.
And the ghost
Can we get like a black Cadillac convertible, like like the old '60s style ones?
Oh, of course, that's doable. Something
In
tells
zombie
me
hookers?
my old friend who I miss very much, Isaac Hayes, may he rest in peace, he'd be very proud of this project.
Yeah.
Truck Turner would be very proud of a Zombie Hookers project, gaining a strange force of momentum in the Combat Radio episodes where we've talked about it. It's like, I'm now asked about this online more than anything else. Like, what's up with Zombie Hookers?
I think you need a scene at Cafe Jalisco.
I think so.
What about pimps? Are we having pimps in this movie as well?
Are we having who in it?
Pimps?
Pimps.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah,
pimps
Peter Shakota's our
in a
pimp.
hooker movie.
Yeah, Peter's playing our pimp right here.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking like Billy D. Williams.
Well, that's
for some
doable.
reason.
Billy D. Williams will tell you that one of his favorite interviews ever was this show, so I think that's doable. Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, his
Corey
son.
D. Williams, his son.
Corey D. Williams.
I know who I also knew quite well, who used to love to meet at Dupar's for lunch, was Rudy Ray Moore, but he's also passed away. He would have been a cinch. I could have put the lead pipe lock on that thing with a phone call.
I think we should get real pimps. Real pimps.
That's what we want. Real pimps on the set.
I mean, if you're gonna get real hoes at the party tonight.
Yeah, real
No, that's not true.
Look at Peter's quickly trying to swipe this party under the rug.
Oh, it's just
Peter's having a fit in the corner. All right, so Hunter, Rose Hill, it's
Yes, sir.
There is a historical society that does a ghost walk if people are interested, but you yourself, if people are interested, could probably be contacted for a more unofficial yet more interesting ghost walk, I'd imagine.
They certainly can.
What's the name of your paranormal research outfit? Or is it, the Hunter Blocker Regulars? Or what is it?
Yeah, Zombie Bacterium.
Zombie Bacterium. When in doubt this Halloween, if you're looking for something to do in the Long Island area, I highly recommend you take a ghost walk hosted by our friend Zombie Bacterium. Combat Radio approves this message. There you go. Hunter, nice having you on the program, buddy. Anything in closing?
Thank you for having me.
All right, buddy. We'll talk again. Nice job, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Rose Hill.
Interesting.
Headstone marked zombie, and that was the phenomenon that everyone talked about. Some other people in the area said the same thing. You cannot take whether it's a magnetic anomaly, an electronic anomaly, or whatever it is, you cannot take a picture of this headstone. Your battery, your phone is dead.
That was definitely an interesting day, my friend.
Yeah, so tell us, Hunter.
Yeah.
Anybody ever end up contacting you to go on a zombie walk or a paranormal tour?
No, unfortunately, I was very disappointed. I was really excited. I was hoping that somebody would have reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, let's do it up." But in those days too, I wasn't really as active on social media as I am now.
Sure, yeah.
And
me either.
I mean, I'm sure now. I'm sure somebody in the state of New Jersey has to listen to Succotash or Antisocial Show. So I'm pretty sure now that if I were to get something together, I'm pretty sure now somebody would jump all over that. But unfortunately, nobody jumped on that in those days. That's cool though.
Yeah, that's too bad though. Well, but I guess there's still time. So you've got over 50 episodes of your own podcast now, or your own soundcast. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so how does it feel having come all this way? What does that feel like, having done this now? Did you ever see this as being a thing? I know that's more than one question, but you get the idea of what I'm asking.
Well, I want to say going back prior to to when I was doing Strange Times, a couple episodes of that.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely back in those days, I didn't see it as myself doing it. I knew that it was possible, but I wasn't sure how to do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then, of course, when I got the idea, the awesome idea I'd be like, hey, man, I was on Strange Times a few times. I was on Combat Radio. I obviously share the shit out of shows that I like, Succotash including. I'm like, I could do this. And so I spent 6 months learning how to do a soundcast. And I have to, when we finally got to the moment, when we finally launched, it was super, super exciting. And even now, it's always it's always a good feeling. It's an awesome feeling to be able to sit there and create something and get it out there. So, and each and every episode, it's always something new and exciting, because even I never know what we're going to talk about when we're doing an episode, except for here and there when we say, hey, let's talk about this or let's mention that. But there's no script to it. And that's the fun part, because when you get on the mic and start talking, you never know where the conversation is going to go. So, and of course, when it's all put together and you send it to me to listen to, it's wow, man, it's an exciting thing to not be able to just listen to a soundcast, but to listen to your own soundcast, which is truly amazing.
Hear, hear. Well, it's been a great ride this last, year and a half. In 6 days and 3 months, it will be 2 years since the first show debuted. Now,
wow, really?
Yeah.
2 years.
Yep. This will be because the first episode was out on October 18th, 2016. Now, of course, we recorded it earlier than October 18th, but it ended up being on the air over there at my SoundCloud, which now you can find by going to www.tysonsaner.com. You can find all my links.
I can't even believe it's been 2 years, almost. Has it been 2 years or almost 2 years?
It'll be 2 years in 3 months and 6 days.
That is incredible, man. The fact that our show, something that we created, has been going strong for 2 years. I mean, that goes to show you how fast time goes, because I honestly never even kept track of how many years we've been doing this, and like now you got to look at it and be like, wow, yeah, I've been a soundcaster for almost 2 years now, apparently, in 3 months.
Yeah,
so it's truly an amazing thing. You know what I mean?
With some degree of regularity, which is like regularity, regular, some degree of regularity. No, I think that's right. I think that's the right way. Well, you know me,
Yeah.
I'm a stickler about words.
Nothing wrong with that, because I truly appreciate people that when they drop words, I truly appreciate the fact that they're dropping words and they know what those words mean because they're obviously using them, as opposed to like people dropping words and have no idea what the hell it even means at all.
Sure.
So that's just me though.
I would prefer if the term soundcast is to get any movement. I mean, not saying it hasn't had movement, but to really get it in there, I'd like a little more of people, bluffing, where they just start using the word even though they're not sure what it means, and then there'll be people going, okay, now I thought you meant podcast, but I wasn't sure why you said it. It's kind of nice when people ask.
Well,
for clarification.
I think the word soundcast is. I mean, think about it. Anything that's anything in life evolves and becomes better, right? So it was originally called a podcast. Okay, well, we used the term podcast for a lot of years, and people are still stuck on the word podcast. But it's nice to actually evolve and call it something else, because obviously when you think of podcasting, and I don't really want to like talk bad or ill about iTunes. I love iTunes. We're on iTunes. But it's still like the big old elephant in the room. It's like you talk about a podcast. Well, that's probably the only medium where it exists is on iTunes. And you have like your little, what do they call them things? An iPod, which is dead technology. They don't even make iPods anymore. So it's nice to get away from that. And it just sounds bigger, better, more professional when you say, hey, I'm a soundcaster, That's just my opinion.
Okay. That's cool. What's really amazing also? I forgot.
What's that?
I mean, I agree with all you're saying, what you're saying, and I'm not trying to say that what I've got to point out is more amazing than what you just said. I'm not trying to outdo you, but I'm trying to add to something, and I can't believe I forgot to send you this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as long. It's just like a few,
okay.
It's less than a minute. But at the beginning of that episode of Combat Radio, that day when you and I were on the air for the first time, almost together, I had been on the show before.
Yep.
And you were coming on for the first time, but we were on the same episode. This is the most bizarre thing. Not really bizarre, but check this out.
Okay.
Happy Halloween. It's time for another episode of Combat Radio, and I want to say a quick thank you to the Succotash Show, a rather legendary form of internet entertainment who's been featuring a lot of Combat Radio and some clips, some of our work with Billy D. Williams and Dean Haglund of the X-Files and some others. They've been giving us a lot of support and been featuring us on Succotash.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
this was the same episode that I was on, correct?
Yes,
or different episode.
It was the episode that you were on that we just listened to the clip from, and then I was on later talking about the Wolfman. Like right at the beginning of the show, he mentioned Succotash, which at that time was hosted by Mark Hershon.
How awesome is that?
And it's such a strange confluence of events,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think right there, dude. Honestly, I mean, I think like you and I. Being on Combat Radio, them mentioning Succotash in a weird sort of way, like in a strange sense, it's pretty cool because it all led us to it led us to this point right here in time, I think.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And also it's Halloween, and we've contributed to the Halloween album. We have a Halloween project that we did together.
Oh, yes. Because you were doing something for Halloween on Combat Radio. I was doing something for Halloween on Combat Radio. A few years after that, I actually went to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, where I did a live episode for Combat Radio a couple of years after that.
A couple of years? I'll have to see if I can find that.
Yeah, I think it was was it? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone out there. I lied. It was a year. It was a year later. Sorry. So it was the following. Was it the following Halloween? Yeah. No. Was it?
I don't know. I
honestly don't. Yeah. Check, because I think it was either like a year or two later. I'm not sure though. I'm not 100% positive.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So October 11th, 2013, episode's called The Legion of Doom. I was wondering if you were on future episodes because you were on 2, and then it was a while before you were on again. But you were on with Sally Saffioti, who was from Watchmen, Resident Evil, Star Wars, Tracy Takes On, and as it says in the
that is so friggin' cool.
40,000 interesting credits, and it says Aaron Fitzgerald, of course, you from Ed and Eddie, Beach Monster High, Hamilcar Crosby, one of our partners at Kung Fu Movie Madness, Richard Epcar of Ghost in the Shell, Robotech, and Batman. His wife Ellen Stern Epcar from Milk and Honey and Robotech. These are the credits that are being listed. Tom Vittorino is still back, or perhaps I'm not sure what at this point, but it's a whole year later.
Not have left.
Practically a whole year later, almost a whole year later. It's manager of the Cult, The Doors, Fuel, etc. is his credit. Casey Ryan of the Cutting Room Floor podcast, which I have heard a couple of times. It's been a while. Calls in, and then Hunter Block, and then it says who runs the Combat Radio Firebase New Jersey page.
And I still actually that page went to the wayside, and now I run the Combat New Jersey Strike Team page.
Okay, and it says calls in with a Halloween report from Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, sir.
And if you want to listen to that, folks, you can go to www.latalkradio.com/content/combat-radio.
Yes, a lot of those things in those days just led us to what we're doing like right now, which is pretty cool, I think.
It's interesting how time does that, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. Because like I said, we did the Halloween album Part 3 last year, and now we're working on Part 4, if I may say that. Working on our own track again. So,
sure.
So it's been a pretty fun ride, and I hope the ride goes for a real long time, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, bro.
That's very true, and I hope it goes as long as it can as well. So thank you for
absolutely.
Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. It was a fun time, dude. And thank you for finding that audio clip, because it was really fun reliving that moment in time. That was really cool.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for kicking my ass into doing a podcast, because you really I was in a pretty depressive state during that period of time, and I think it's given me something really fun to look forward to, putting together the show every couple of weeks, as it is, even when it was every week, or just having something to work on. And I think it helped me work on other things, basically, and increase my work output. So I appreciate that a great deal.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There's a quick story behind that. If you have time.
Sure.
Okay, so the night that I decided to do and I'll keep this as brief as possible. The night that I decided to do a podcast or soundcast, I was sitting right in this room where I'm sitting right now, where I do every episode of Antisocial Show, and I was talking to a person who I'm not going to bring up, but I was talking to a person, and we were having a conversation, and I'm like, hey man, a girl obviously, but I was like, hey man, we should do a podcast, because the kind of conversations that we were having, I'm like, we should just do a soundcast. I've been thinking about doing one for a while now, but also, and she got interested, and I'm like, but I want to bring my good buddy Tyson on, because I think it would be awesome having 3 people as opposed to 2. But I think now that I look back on it, I'm glad it was just like you and I, because of the dynamic and the way the show went, like the chemistry. You just can't replicate that. You know what I mean? So, but that was my line of thinking back in those days, anyway. So, but. I definitely had you in mind immediately when I decided to actually do a soundcast. So thank you for being a part of it, bro, because it is fun, and it's something that I look forward to each and every week, because it definitely is a way to escape my head for a little while, if that makes sense. Kind of get away from reality, because when we're doing this, it's like I'm in the zone, dude. And when I'm in the zone, we start talking about everything and anything, and it's just like – before I know it, a couple hours have passed, and then we get back into reality. I'm like, wow, man. So it's kind of like my drug of choice, so to speak.
I like that.
So
soundcasting, your drug of choice.
Me too. That's right, my drug of choice.
So, well, thank you again, Hunter, for doing the show, and
Thank you very much for having me.
Anything you wanted to say in closing to the? Do you have any plugs? Are you going to be appearing anywhere, doing stand up or anything? Are you going to any place you're going to be that you? It's kind of a joke. I don't know if you could because it'd be a couple weeks before this comes out, and I don't know that you'd want to. You're planning on doing a meet and greet in the future?
I wish. If I would be doing a meet and greet in the future, obviously I would want the meet and greet to be with you, and I would be in California.
Oh.
And at some point in time, I was even thinking of doing a live antisocial show somehow. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, later on in the future, obviously. But no, if anybody out there that's listening to this right now, if you want to jump over to Antisocial Show and listen to an episode or two of Tyson and myself, please feel free to do so. You can contact me at Zombie Bacterium on Twitter, or Antisocial Show 1 also on Twitter, or the Antisocial Show on Facebook. We're all over social media. Come check us out. If you want to be a guest, we love guests on the Antisocial Show, don't we, Tyson?
We do.
So
now, is it the Antisocial Show on Facebook, or is it just Antisocial Show on Facebook?
It's Antisocial Show on Facebook.
Okay, just checking, because that "the" slips in there.
Yep. Yeah, just Antisocial Show on Facebook. I mean, yeah, it's funny. I got to thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because there's no "the" in the show, but yet we always call it the Antisocial Show. We never just say. We very rarely do we ever say Antisocial Show.
I try
the
not to.
Antisocial Show.
I try very, very.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying not to myself.
But I always try to. I would say I always correct people. I don't always correct people when they say it wrongly, because it's I don't know. It feels a little bit too much. It feels a little bit too. I'm
too
sure
much to correct them on.
Yeah, it's like actually it's just Antisocial Show, but it is just It's 3 words, and not one of them is the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, there's no the. Get the out. We couldn't call it the anti-show or the anti-show, so we just say it's Anti-Social Show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I always have a good time recording with Hunter when we record for Antisocial Show, and I'd like to thank him again here for being my guest on this episode of Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast. If there's one bit of info I've absorbed from listening to so many different soundcasts over the years, it's a particular similarity of nearly everyone who commits their voices to digital posterity in MP3 format. And that similarity is how, at the beginning of what will become the life of a soundcast, so many of its creators and contributors have absolutely no idea how a show is going to evolve or how long they will continue to make and post episodes. I'm not talking about radio personalities who archive their shows. I'm talking about people who just decide to add their voices to the ever-growing pool of audio personalities who you can choose to spend part of your day with. Who knows what the future brings? Sasquatch, that's who. But they're moody and reclusive, so it's difficult to gather their predictions with any degree of regularity. Anyway, until next time, I bid you a fond gisposta, and if I could trouble you to do so, I'd like to gently implore you to please pass the succotash.
You've been listening to Succotash, the Comedy Soundcast, with your host, Tyson Saner. Brought to you by Henderson's Pants and... Imagine your company's name right here. Rate us and review us at Apple and Google Podcasts. Find us on the web at succotashshow.com, on Stitcher, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, and wherever fine soundcasts are streamed and or downloaded. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Succotash Show. Like us on Facebook. Email us at tyson@succotashshow.com or call into the Succotash Skype line at our toll call number 818-921-7212.
That number again is 818-921-7212.
You can also upload clips from your favorite comedy soundcasts directly to us using our direct upload link at hightail.com/u/succotash. Succotash is produced and engineered by Joe Paulino through the auspices of Studio P Sausalito, the home of the hit. Our hosts are Mark Hershon and Tyson Saner. Our musical director is Scott Carvey. Our booth assistant is Kenny Durges. Succotash is executive produced by Mark Hershon. Until next time, I'm your loyal booth announcer, Bill Heywatt, reminding you to please pass the succotash. Goodbye. This has been a Succotash Patch production.